Richard Mather, 1596 to 22 April 1669, was a Puritan minister in colonial Boston, Massachusetts. He was father to Increase Mather and grandfather to Cotton Mather, both celebrated Boston divines. Biography. Mather was born in Loughton in the parish of Winnock, Lancashire, England, of a family which was in reduced circumstances but entitled to bear a coat of arms. He studied at Winnock Grammar School, of which he was appointed a master in his 15th year, and left it in 1612 to become master of a newly established school at Toxteth Park, Liverpool. After a few months at Brasenose College, Oxford, he began in November 1618 to preach at Toxteth, and was ordained there, possibly only as deacon, early in 1619. Between August and November 1633 he was suspended for nonconformity in matters of ceremony, and in 1634 was again suspended by the visitors of Richard Neile, Archbishop of York, who, hearing that he had never worn a surplice during the 15 years of his ministry, refused to reinstate him and said that it had been better for him that he had begotten 7 bastards. He had a great reputation as a preacher in and about Liverpool, but, advised by letters of John Cotton and Thomas Hooker, he was persuaded to join the company of pilgrims in May 1635 and embarked at Bristol for New England. On the 3rd of June 1635, Richard, wife Catherine, and children Samuel, Timothy, Nathaniel, and Joseph, all set sail for the New World aboard the ship James. As they approached New England, a hurricane struck and they were forced to ride it out just off the coast of modern-day Hampton, New Hampshire. According to the ship's logger and the Journal of Increase Mather, the following was recorded: "At this moment, their lives were given up for lost. But then, in an instant of time, God turned the wind about, which carried them from the rocks of death before their eyes. Her sails rent in sunder, and split in pieces, as if they had been rotten rajas. They tried to stand down during the storm just outside the Isles of Shoals, but lost all 3 anchors, as no canvas or rope would hold. But on the 17th of August 1635, torn to pieces, and with not one death, all 100+ passengers of the James managed to make it to Boston Harbor." He arrived at Boston on the 17th of August 1635. After weathering the great colonial hurricane of 1635, as a famous preacher, he was desired at Plymouth, Dorchester, and Roxbury. He went to Dorchester, where the church had been greatly depleted by migrations to Windsor, Connecticut, and where, after a delay of several months, in August 1636 there was constituted by the consent of magistrates and clergy a church of which he was teacher, until his death in Dorchester on the 22nd of April 1669. He was buried in the Dorchester North Burying Ground. Works. He was a leader of New England Congregationalism, whose policy he defended and described in the tract Church Government and Church Covenant, discussed in an answer of the elders of the several churches of New England to 32 questions. Written 1639. Printed 1643. An answer for the ministers of the colony to 32 questions relating to church government that were propounded by the General Court in 1639. He drew up the Cambridge Platform of Discipline, an ecclesiastical constitution in 17 chapters, adopted, with the omission of Mather's paragraph favouring the halfway covenant, of which he strongly approved, by the General Synod in August 1646. His reply to Mr. Rutherford, 1647, is a polemic against the Presbyterianism to which the English Congregationalists were then tending. With Thomas Welday, Thomas Mayhew and John Eliot he wrote the Bay Psalm Book, or, more accurately, The whole book of Psalm faithfully translated into English meter. 1640. Probably the first book printed in the English colonies. He was the author of Treatise on Justification. 1652. Family. Mather married in 1624 Catherine Holt to Holt. Died 1655. And secondly in 1656 Sarah Hankredge. Died 1676. The widow of Rev. John Cotton. Minister. Of 6 sons. All by his first wife. 4 were ministers. Samuel. 1626 to 1671. The first Fellow of Harvard College who was a graduate. Chaplain of Magdalen College, Oxford. In 1650 to 1653. And pastor. 1656 to 1671. Accepting suspension in 1660 to 1662. Of Church of Street. Nicholas within Dublin. Timothy Mather 1628 to 1684. Also known as the Farmer Mather, as he was the only son who was not a minister. He was made selectman of Dorchester, Massachusetts during the years 1667 to 69 and 1675 and 1676. He died in 1684 after a fall in his barn. Nathaniel. 1630 to 1697. Who graduated at Harvard in 1647. Was vicar of Barnstable, Devon. In 1656 to 1662. Pastor of the English Church in Rotterdam. His brother's successor in Dublin in 1671 to 1688. And then until his death pastor of a church in London. Eleazar. 1637 to 1669. Who graduated at Harvard in 1656 and after preaching in Northampton, Massachusetts, for 3 years, became in 1661 pastor of the church there. Father-in-law to Rev. John Williams, minister, 1664 to 1729, Harvard class of 1683, of Deerfield, Massachusetts. Increase who graduated at Harvard class of 1656, 1639 to 1723, was a Puritan minister and a major figure in the early history of the Massachusetts Bay Colony and province of Massachusetts Bay, now the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Son-in-law to Rev. John Cotton, minister, father of Rev. Cotton Mather, 1663 to 1728, Harvard class of 1678. Horace E. Mather, in his lineage of Richard Mather, Hartford, Connecticut, 1890, gives a list of 80 clergymen descended from Richard Mather, of whom 29 bore the name Mather and 51 other names, the most common being Storrs and Shalfala. See also Toxteth Unitarian Chapel. Notes. Greaves. Richard L. 1998. Dublin's Merchant Quaker. Anthony Sharp and the Community of Friends. 1643 to 1707. Stanford University Press. p. 4. ISBN 9780804734523. Attribution. This article incorporates text from a publication now in the public domain. Webster, Richard, 1911. Mather, Richard, in Chisholm, Hugh, Encyclopaedia Britannica, 18. 11th ed. Cambridge University Press. pp. 885–886. This article incorporates text from a publication now in the public domain. Frederick Gregory Mather, 1900. Mather, Richard, in Wilson. James Grant. Fisk. John. Appleton's Cyclopedia of American Biography. New York. D. Appleton. Further reading. Clapp. Ebenezer. 1859. History of the Town of Dorchester, Massachusetts. Boston. Gordon. Alexander. 1885–1900. Mather, Richard. Dictionary of National Biography. London. Smith, Elder & Co. pp. 29-30. Mather, Richard. 1850. Journal of Richard Mather 1635. His Life and Death 1670. Middlecaff, Robert. 1973. The Mathers, Three Generations of Puritan Intellectuals 1596 to 1728.